sentencing the particular matter. That is a matter for the courts.
Question number 8, the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Education. What is the estimated reduction in teaching positions at intermediate and middle schools in each of the next 4 years as a result of the new teacher-to-student funding ratios in Budget 2012?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Talofa lava, Mr. Speaker. Kia ora tātou. The government funds full-time teaching equivalents, not positions. That is a matter for each board. What we have always said is that about 90% of schools will have a net loss or gain of up to 1 full-time teaching equivalent. We've examined the effect on the other 10% of schools, and some would be affected more than we are prepared to accept. Schools will therefore be given a guarantee that their staffing entitlement will not be reduced by more than 2 full-time teaching equivalents over the next 3 years as a result of the policy changes. Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Given a recent announcement at 1:41 p.m. today that, quote, no school will lose more than 2 full-time teachers as a result of the policy changes in Budget 2012, end of quote, the Minister must know the budgetary impact of this about-face. So what is it?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister has already indicated, we wrote, or the Secretary of Education wrote on Budget Day to every school to advise them whether they were in the 90% or the 10%. And in that letter, they were advised that
Point
the transition...
Point of order, the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
The question was very specific. I asked what the budgetary impact of the recent announcement this afternoon was, and she hasn't answered.
That is correct. That's what the member asked. I'd asked the Minister to come to the question. The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. We have a contingency for transition, and that will support the provision for 2
Point of order, the Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
The question is very specific. It's asking for a specific value, and the Minister has failed yet again to answer that question. What is the budget?
Order. Before I call the Minister, so long as they understand that terminology is understood, the member has asked what the budgetary effect is. Now, that may or may not elicit exactly the answer the member wants, but it's up to the Minister to answer as she sees fit. That. The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr. Speaker, I don't have the exact figure to hand.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Scott Simpson.
To the Minister, what support has she offered the most affected schools?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr. Speaker, schools have been given a guarantee that their staffing entitlement will not be reduced by more than 2 full-time teaching equivalents over the next 3 years as a result of the policy changes.
Question number... I beg your pardon, Dr. Megan Woods.
Thank you. Given that schools could still lose up to 2 full-time positions, can she give an assurance to Brenston and Christchurch South intermediates that they'll not lose their dedicated science and technology teachers as a result of her new ad hoc plan? And if not, is she concerned that this breaks John Key's promise that National is committed to working with industry to make it easier for schools to find, pay and employ people to take their trades and technology classes?
The Honourable Hekia Parata.
Mr. Speaker, we will continue to work with the Christchurch schools as we have done on a case-by-case basis ever since the impact of the earthquakes.
Mr. Speaker.
Is this a point of order, Dr. Megan Woods?
I take leave to table 3 documents. The first, a letter from Christchurch South Intermediate to parents. Staffing cuts a big mistake that sets out what the impact on that school if these cuts will be. The second is an email from Brenston Intermediate to me setting out the effect on its ability to deliver quality technology and specialist programs within the school. And the third is a transcript of a speech from John Key to the Employers and Manufacturers Association.
I think we should, the House has to make sensible decisions. Let's deal first with the letter from the school. Is there any objection to that letter being tabled? There is none. The second is the email from a school to the member. Is any objection to that document being tabled? There is none. And the third is...
the third document is a transcript of a speech from John Key in 2007 to the Employers and Manufacturers Association.
Leave us sort of table that document. Is there any objection? There is objection. Order. 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 I say to the Labor front bench, it appears they have a backbench colleague seeking the call. Lewissa Wall, supplementary question.
Talofa lava, Mr Speaker, tēnā tātou. Supplementary to the Minister, can she explain to the parents of Years 7 and 8 students from Green Meadows, Manurewa and Weymouth Intermediates why she is making it harder for their Decile 1 and 3 schools to support their learning and achievement when her policy means those students will lose on average 2 teachers per school, and I note before 1:41 p.m. it was on average 6 teachers per school, plus some targeted programs that Ian Taylor, principal of Manurewa Intermediate, says motivates and keeps particularly Māori and Pacific students engaged in education.
The Honourable Heke Parata.
It is exactly because we are interested in raising the quality of teaching practice to raise student achievement that we are making a trade-off of having 1 or 2 extra students in a classroom in order that we can have raised achievement.
Ian Lees-Galloway.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister, how is it fair for small intermediates to lose the same number of teachers as large intermediates, which is what her new ad hoc plan that she made up on the way to the House will implement?
The Honourable Heke Parata.
Mr Speaker, we wrote on Budget Day to all schools telling them that a transition plan would be put into place and that we would work with each of them. In the interests of providing certainty now, we have provided the guarantee that no school will lose more than 2 full-time teaching equivalents and 90% won't lose any more than 1 full-time teaching equivalent. This is good news.
Order. 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 Forgive me. I didn't hear that, but I need to be able to hear this next supplementary question. The Honourable Nanaia Mahuta.
Given that response, how will schools be given a guarantee that their individual staffing entitlements will not be reduced by more than 2 full-time equivalents over 3 years, which may equate to 6 people, and that no further cap on role growth will occur?
The Honourable Heke Parata.
Mr Speaker, we have announced to schools that they will have a protection guarantee that they will not lose more than 2 full-time teaching equivalents. The way that it is done every year to that member, which is that in September, provisional roles are set with schools and their full-time teaching equivalents are allocated on that basis.
Question number 9, Melissa Lee.
Talofa lava, Mr Speaker. My question